Salut, Mickey, and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at Vergil's third Ecloga, lines 66 through 71. This is going to be another one of those points where I will need to warn parents this content is not necessarily appropriate for children, more so than typical. But let's go ahead and get started. Last time in Vergil's third Ecloga. Here is our rubric. Let's go ahead and get reading. At mihi sese offert otro meos ignis, amintas, notior ut iam sit canibus non delia nostris. Parta meae veneri sunt munera, dumque dotavi ipse locum, aeriae quo congessere palumbes. Quod potui puero silvestri ex arbore lecta, area mala decam nisi, cras altera mittam. There we have that. Starting with Menalcas, he says, but mihi, that's going to be a dative of reference, or the dative due to the verb. Taking a look at a verb, offero. So this comes, I think, it's not from X because there would just be efero. Instead, this might be from ob, and I forget what ob means. But it would be taking dative or ablative, as the verbs typically do with that, and it needs to have an object with it, which would be sese. This is the same thing as just se. So this is accusative, singular. Offert is from ferro fere. Yeah, ferro fere, and it is the third person singular. Present tense is no change in the stem beyond the vowel dropping out, which is normal for the third in this verb. And it is active indicative. And then we have otro, which is an adverb. And this word means beyond or on the other side. So, but something offers itself to me, otro, on the other side, beyond. I think the green and yellow, or it may have been Perseus instead, that suggested bare, as in unclothed. Very awkward there. But then we get to our actual subject of the sentence, meos ignis. Ignis is masculine. We know because of the meos right there, so nominative, singular, masculine, and it means fire. Modern English would be my flame. I think that's how it would work. So my flame offers, and it's going to be himself because it's masculine, not just because of ignis, but if we take a look at amintas, which is a noun, it is a proper name. This is a name used of a Greek king, so it is technically possible that this is a name used of a woman, which would be normal. Humanly speaking, but not reality speaking, especially in Roman poetry. But at least as far as the green and yellow says, and the lexicon, this word is not used of women, at least not at this time, so probably a man. So this is going to be nominative, singular, masculine, referring back to that. Notior, this comes from notus, which then with the IOR means we have a comparative. It's going to be nominative, singular, and either masculine or feminine. Notior could go with amintas, or it could go with our comparative subject, which would be delia, and delia is feminine. Before the ut, so before I select whether it's masculine or feminine, let's take a look at what this other clause says. Yam, adverb, probably do masculine, feminine. Sit from sum esse fui, this is just the subjunctive form, which makes sense. Canibus, from canis, This is either masculine or feminine. It doesn't really matter very much. And those three is going to be modifying kane bus. It's the same form there. So dative plural, ablative or dative plural, I should say. And then masculine or feminine. Let's go with masculine just as the standard. Non-dalia. And dalia is going to need to be the subject of the verb here, since we don't have any stated so far. So nominative, singular, feminine. And I'll get to the meaning of these two in just a moment. So our two options are, but to me, my fire offers himself on the other side or out of his clothes, amantis. More known, ut, functioning, I think, comparatively here, more known than now maybe Dahlia to our dogs, and then the green and yellow, no, not the green and yellow, Perseus in this case is suggesting that non is taken separately. So not Dahlia, she's not as well known, but she is more well known now to our dogs. Or it could be that Amintas is more known to the dogs because he's around more often than Dahlia. So more known if it's masculine, Mantis, then now Dahlia is not to our dogs. It doesn't make much sense in English, but our two options are either Dahlia is more known to the dogs or she's not known to the dogs. Or not Dahlia being his fire, but rather she is more known to the dogs at this time. So those are two options, but to get to the forms of these two names, Amintas was easy to find. It's just this Greek word, Amuntes, and this means defender, just a straight noun. And then Delia, her name is also used of the goddess Diana. So it's pretty impious here of Menalcas to be using a alternate name for a goddess to refer to a rustic gal in whom he's not actually interested. But the word appears to come from the feminized form of delios. And we get delias, deliados for the genitive, and it just means woman from delos. So Delian woman. Moving on into demoitoses. Parta mea. Parta can't be going with mei because mei and a are the wrong form there. So instead looking at veneri, this comes from Venus, and Venus is an irregular third, or it is irregular because it is third. So veneri is actually our dative, singular, feminine. Mei with that ae could be genitive singular, but this is an adjective that matches case number and gender of the noun owned. So instead, mei is going to be dative singular, is the second option for mei. And then parta is going to be going with munera, from munus, munera, so the nominative, plural, accusative, with this verb sunt. So there are munera gifts, but what is parta? This is parior, I think, fourth principle part. So it's a perfect passive participle, nominative, plural, neuter to match munera. I wrote accusative. Neuter, there we go. Perfect passive participle meaning brought. There are brought, or there are prepared gifts for my Venus. This is actually a woman. Namque. For also notavi, this noto, notare, notavi, I have noted, I have designated, I have marked out. The V tells us that this is the perfect tense. I tells us it is first person singular, active, and indicative, and it's going to be noticing an accusative. Ipse is the wrong form. Instead, ipse is nominative singular, masculine being a restatement of the subject, and locum is our object for accusative, singular. Yeah, because it's locus, loci, masculine. So for even I have noted myself the place. What place is that? Why, that's aeriae, so that E is pronounced differently from the rest of the word. Arii, quo, these two go together. Quo is an adverb, and this is the one that shows place to which. So when you want to know where someone has gone, you ask quo, to where have they gone? Though I think usually people just use ubi. So ubi is the easiest one to remember, but to which and arii. This one, or wait, no, can't be modifying. Quo, ae, genitive, dative singular, nominative plural. Taking a look ahead, we have palumbes. This es is a nominative plural, and then palumbas are feminine. And this is a curious word because in the singular it's regular, and then we get the es for the plural forms. It could be that Vergil is just using an unusual form, and the I, autumn, is, as, is normal for it. But that's what we find, at least in this edition, an irregular first. And this is a wood dove. Then we could have arii modifying it, and this just means in airy wood doves, or in their airy ways, wood doves. And then congesere, since we get a verb of cognition, cognition, I think that's the right word, then we're going to take an indirect statement. So actually, but this would then be an incorrect indirect statement, because while palumbes could be accusative, which is what the indirect statement wants, with an infinitive, aerii is wrong, because this is in the nominative. It would need to be aerias in order to match palumbas, and for us to get a proper indirect statement after this statement. So, and that means I have probably initially misidentified congesere as the infinitive in an indirect statement. So this would be congregate, congruo, congruere, congressi. Ere is a sometimes used third person plural in the perfect tense. So that's got to be what we have going on here. Perfect variant active indicative. And this means to gather together or to nest. The green and yellow suggest that we should add in here the word nidus, or it would be nidos, because accusative plural, and that's just the word for nests. So I know the place to which the airy doves gather to nest. I forgot also to note that this is a dative of advantage. Then moving on into Menalcus, quod potui, so this is from qui quae quod, with potui, accusative, singular, neuter is the only option for the gender. Potuis from possum, posse, potui, and then we have the first singular perfect tense, active and indicative for I am able, for what I am able. Then we get this subordinate clause, puero. This is going to be either the dative or the ablative, singular, masculine. Silvestri, this is a dative. I forget what the nominative is, but it could be referring to puero, but silvestri means like overgrown, wooded. So it doesn't make any sense with him. So instead, ex prepositional phrase taking the ablative. And we have arbore, which must be ablative with the prepositional phrase, singular and feminine. Lecta could go with arbore, because this would be lectos, lecta, lecton, the adjective. Silvestri can't really go with arbore because it's not ablative instead. Or it could be, because it has a third. Sometimes the ablative is an I. So I think I'm going to leave this one alone until I have gone through again with you the entire context of 7071 to figure out, is there something else that Silvestri could be doing, as it really doesn't make sense with boy, which is at the moment the only option as the only possible dative. Lecta I'm going to have to leave alone until we take a look at the next line. Aurea, we have that A again, could be going with lecta, and then arbore, but immediately after that we have mala, from malum, the word for apple. But what we really want to do is we want to find a verb, and that's here at the end from mito, mitere, misi. So we get the first singular perfect stem, active and indicative. I have sent. What have I sent? I have to have sent an object. None of these work until lecta, but that's an adjective. So you have to go to the next nearest noun, which is malum, with the a must be accusative, plural, masculine. I have sent apples, specifically 10 apples, and more specifically than that, golden 10 apples. And then we could also say lecta, chosen golden apples, 10 of them. Or lecta could be referring to arbore, which is like fig tree or trees, from the chosen tree. I think from the chosen tree makes a little bit more sense because he has chosen specifically this tree to take the apples. Arbore, as I said, can mean fig tree, but in this case, because we've got apples or quinces as the other option, fig tree doesn't make any sense, so just generic tree. In this case, we would know it's an apple tree. That still leaves us with silvestri. So I think really the only option here is either we have a very overgrown boy, but overgrown with leaves, or I have misidentified this and it is actually ablative, third declension that can take the E in the ablative. I forget all the rules for when, I can take the I in the ablative, that is. I forget all the rules when an ablative in the third declension can be an I. But that must be what's going on because it really doesn't make any sense with the boy, unless there is another meaning of silvestri that I have missed somewhere down in the lexicon. Suffice it to say, going there, or I'm going with this one. Prepositional phrase opens there, closes here, and I don't think I need to add any more. But then what is going on with the boy? I have sent 10 apples. Could be to the boy, but that doesn't necessarily make much sense. It could be I have sent 10 apples with the boy. So we've got either the ablative of means or we've got the dative of advantage. Let's take a look at our next clause to see if that sheds any light. Hint, it won't. So cras altera mittam, here's a verb again. In this case, we got the present stem. Note that this is a third conjugation, which then with the am is the future tense. So we don't get the bo bis bit, instead we get am as et. First singular future active indicative, and it's taking a direct object, which is altera, going back to mala, so it could be other apples or it could be more apples. The green and yellow suggests more apples, so I'll write down both. And then cross is an adverb for tomorrow. So accusative, plural, not singular, neuter. Yes, going with the neuter. No, that should be neuter. What's wrong with me? Malum is neuter. So what I am able, tomorrow others I will send, or tomorrow others I may send. So this could technically be a subjunctive with potui, but I wouldn't think that we would use a subjunctive. Instead, I would think what I am able to send tomorrow. We would want an infinitive instead. But that still doesn't clear up what we do with puero. If we take a look at what Menalcas said last time, amantas, or muntas, however it's pronounced, is almost certainly a man or a boy. So boy again makes sense as the indirect object. So that's how I'm going to treat it. So dative, indirect object. So there we have that, and I just realized that I had failed to write down the translation for the first, so it's probably changed from how I said I was going to do it. I couldn't remember exactly how, so I've kind of made this mush here at the end. But let's take a look at this in its own awkward context. But to me, himself, maybe herself, offers, unclothed my fire, amintas, more known now than maybe to our dogs, Delia, who is not my fire. For my Venus there are gifts brought, for even I have noted, I myself, the place to which airy wood pigeons gather. What I am able, to boy from overgrown chosen tree, 10 golden apples I have sent. Tomorrow I will send others. So there we have that. I hope taking a look at it has been helpful for you, and I hope that you have a very good day.